Hi, Kasper from Runner's Knee Rehab here. I'm so excited to have you here, and this is a very important video. I'm going to cover some really important stuff about how your body works, why you're experiencing the pain that you're experiencing, and how we can work our way out of it. So we're going to start here with the drawing right here, and we have these three different kind of areas that kind of sums up how the body works. So on top we have the brain. This is really our control center. Then we have the body moving around, also running. And then we have our capacity to heal over here. And these three areas are really closely interlinked. And everything that happens on this side is more on a biomechanical level. So let's look into that. So here on top we have the brain, really controlling everything. This is where we have the different kind of motor patterns, the strategies that we use, the specific muscles that is activated when we run. And sometimes things happen in these motor patterns, so some muscles start working more and some start working less, and this can create imbalances down through the different kind of systems that we have in the body. So the way that the body kind of makes this happen is through the nervous system, through the spine. So the brain is sending signals down through the spine, then from the spine it leaves the spine through the nerves that goes down to the muscle. So when the nerves hit the muscle with a signal, the muscle contracts. Then it creates tension through the tendons. Through the tendons, which is attached to the bone starts moving. And down here in the bottom, we have the ligaments. The purpose of the ligaments is really to keep the bones close together. So this is the hierarchy of movement. So everything starts from the brain, the patterns of movement we have up here. And luckily, we can change that through different kind of exercise strategies. One key thing here is to understand that the muscle is the dynamic part of this area here. It's the stuff that moves the body around. So when we want to create a different kind of movement pattern, when we run, the muscles that we use, we need to work on the muscles. Some muscles need to work more and some muscles need to work less. From this area right here, from the muscles and the fascia, the tendon, the bones and the ligaments, there's a lot of sensory nerves that send signal back to the brain. So the brain kind of activates the body, makes it move in a specific way, and depending on how the load is, these signals is sent back to the brain so the brain can analyze how this movement strategy was loading the body. And one thing that is important to understand here when it comes to pain, all these signals that is coming back here, if the brain interprets the load on the body as something that is not good, it might give us a pain response. So anything that is going on with inflammation down here is just another part of the information going back to the brain. So inflammation is just a small part of pain. It's not everything, it's a part of it. So the way that we can work around here is that we can start to create new movement patterns that creates a different load on the areas down here, because then the feedback to the brain will become different. It's the brain that determines whether or not we have pain, depending on the information that is coming back to the brain and how the brain looks at this. And so if we have had pain for a long time, the brain kind of get more sensitive to the load that is going on here. So we might experience pain faster, or more severe pain feels more intense because the brain is becoming quite nervous of the load that is going on down here. So pain is really important. It's something that we need. So pain is there as a protective mechanism. It's not a bad thing. It's definitely not a nice thing, but it's not a bad thing, because pain helps us prevent even more load on these structures that might be becoming overused. So pain is there to protect you, to prevent you from going even more into this overuse injury. Also, we have something down here which is really important, because the higher volume and the higher intensity creates more load on all these structures down here, or over here. With higher volume and higher intensity, we also need more time to recover, more healing. So if we do a lot of high intensity workouts, it's really stressful for the body. This puts a lot of stress through what is called the autonomic nervous system, stimulates our sympathetic branch, which is our stress fight-flight response. This makes the brain more sensitive to whatever is going on down here. So like I said, these three areas here are really closely interlinked. What we need to do here is we need to control the volume and intensity, so we know that the body can recover from the workout that we're doing. So let's look at the other side here, because what we experience is the pain response. So this is our experience, the pain experience that the brain creates. Underneath here is the interpretation level. but before that we have a registration. So like I talked about here, we have this registration, the sensation of the load from the different structures in the body. Also, below the registration here, as I said, we have the loading of the different kind of structures. So the loading of the tendons, the loading of the muscles. And when we get too much load on the body, one of the typical responses is inflammation. So inflammation is also not a bad thing. It's there to help the tissue recover. So the purpose of inflammation is to remove the tissue that has been broken down due to too much load. So when we have different kind of tendon issues, maybe the IT band is becoming overloaded as we run, we have this inflammation process going on because the IT band has been broken down slightly. Then inflammation comes, removes the tissue that has been broken down so the body can recover and build new strong tissue. So if we have a continuous build-up of inflammation, it's just a sign that this poor tendon is just continuously being overloaded. So inflammation is just a part of it, of the equation. So when the brain gets feedback from the body, it also senses the amount of inflammation. And if the amount of inflammation gets too high, this will become a pain trigger as well. So the important thing to understand here is we have these three steps. We have the load going on in the tissue. We have the registration of this load in the tissue. Then we have the interpretation going on in the brain, the blue circle that I've drawn in here. And if the brain feels that this is not a good load of the body, it might give us this pain experience. But the important thing to understand here is that when we talk about loading of the body is designed to function at a balanced level. So if something happens in the way that we use our body, some muscles tend to do more work than others. This will create a load. Let's just take the IT band. If our glute muscle is not working properly, the tensor muscle that sits in front of the hip tends to become very tight. This pulls the IT band very tight and making the IT band run on the side of the knee, scratching on the bony part, creating overuse of this tendon. But the problem is not really the tendon, it's the tightness of the tensor fascia muscle due to the weakness of the glute muscle. So the load is just the specific structure taking the extra work. So the areas that we experience pain in is often the areas that has to do the extra work of all the other parts that has become too lazy. So when we experience pain around the kneecap, it's just the structures around the kneecap having to take extra load because there's some other function around the knee that is not working properly. Also, if we look at the IT band, if we get an inflammation in the IT band, it's most likely due to something else not working properly. So the IT band has to take extra load. So it's not really the load of the IT band or the load of the stuff around the patella that is interesting. It's really all the stuff that is not working properly that is creating this additional load on these poor structures that might create an inflammation because the structure is overused. This creates a registration in the nervous system of this extra load on the body, which the brain might interpret as a bad thing. So we have the pain experience here. So it's not the structure that we have the pain in that is interesting. This is often just the symptoms. It's everything that is below that level. So everything that has created that additional load on the structure that we want to heal. So I hope this video really helped you to understand why you have the pain that you are having and why it's not interesting to look at the exact point of pain. It's more interesting to look at everything else that is going on, and it really comes back to this motor pattern, how you use your body. That is way more important than the area that has been overloaded, because if we can create a better movement pattern, we will take the load off the structure that is being overused, because the entire body is becoming more balanced in the way that it loads the body. So we need to make sure that we do a lot of exercises that corrects the way that you use your muscles. Some muscles need to be stretched, loosened up, some needs to be activated more, and that is everything that we're going to go through in this rehab course here. So hopefully this video gave you a good insight into how the body works, why you are having the pain, and what you can do to get out of the pain again. That is not the pain area we are focusing on, it's everything that is underneath that. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.